So we wanted to tackle this issue about dadhood, which is I don't know if it has a definition, but there's something that people say that anybody can be a father, but it takes a special person to be a dad. So is there a difference between being a dad and being a father?
Uh, Personally, I think there is. I've always looked at uh, when I think of fatherhood, I think of you know something biological, something formal. Um, it's almost like it's the response. It's a position of responsibility to raising a child. It's almost like it's just so formalized. When I think about fatherhood, when I think of dadhood, I think dadhood is something for me that is more involving. You're involved in the life. You're involved in the day to day. You're involved emotionally. You're involved. You're just involved. Such that if they remove you, they will feel you. They will know that if they take you out of it. I mean, if you look at it nowadays, it's in so many situations, if you can easily remove a father and still get on with life. The way I look at it is that as a dad, if they remove you, they will know you're not there. So that's my thinking when it comes to that to the fatherhood.
Because there's these things I know it started off in America when you hear women say, that's my baby father. And I don't know if it's the same terminology that you've heard. I've just never understood it. And because I think the first time I heard it, I was thrown aback. Well, my baby father, my baby father. So, and what do you think about that?
Baby father. If I remember, baby father is a okay. I'm not sure what I'm not. I won't go into. I don't know. Not sure what the meaning of that is. But what where I'd go to is this. I'd say, and let me get this right. I'd say fatherhood in itself is a title.
Yeah,
You understand? But when I think about dadhood, I think it's more of it's a commitment.
yeah.
That's the way I put it. I'd say
I
dadhood
think,
is a commitment.
yeah, I think that's a big
It's
difference. Yeah,
yeah. And I'll
because
read something that one of my mentors said, and I'll have to read that. Let me see what I can get. Yeah, okay, I got yeah. He said this. He said, "Being a father is a God-given privilege, but being a dad is a choice."
that's a big deep for me because how many people make that choice deliberately? How many people plan to make that choice? How many people that happens to just out of the blues? So the Americans, when they call baby father, they just means that that's the person that's impregnated me, and that's it. There's no emotional relationship between the woman and the man. It's just somebody who's managed to have his DNA coupled with somebody else's DNA to produce a product. So yes, saying that that's a choice makes it very, very it's very apt in terms of describing dadhood. So, what are your thoughts about dadhood?
That's a pretty broad one. But I'd say um, when I think of dadhood, and I think I've always kind of been like this in a funny way. I think of um, I think of presence. Now, personally, I'm a Christian, and when I think of Christianity, one thing that a lot of people crave is the presence of the Father. You always think you're always thinking that, oh, I want to be in the presence of God. I want to be in the presence of God. I just crave to be in the presence of God. Now, think back when you have a child. What do you think your child's saying?
Yeah.
He's saying exactly the same thing. I want to be with my dad. I want to be with my dad. Oh, how I wish my dad was here. Oh, how that's what your dad's saying. So many times when I think about dadhood, I'm thinking of presence. I'm there. I'm actively there. For my daughter, for my sons. You know, yeah, and all that. Yeah.
So, is that interesting because we are saying our children want to be in our presence. So that means there must be a special bond between the father or the dad, if to use the more appropriate term now, because that's the choice that we've made between the dad and and the child. So I guess it must be rewarding to be a dad.
I guess it is.
So what are the rewards that you get from being a dad? What are the joys that come with being a dad?
I think one of the biggest joys for me. I mean, like I said, I'm a dad of. I've got two daughters, beautiful ladies, very expressive in their own different ways, and all that. But I think one of the things I enjoy the most about having both of them is being in a place where they basically tell me almost everything, the things I want to hear and the things I don't. You know, but I say it's such a privilege where it's almost like, you know, oh dad this, oh dad this, oh dad that, and I'm like, okay, all right, okay, all right, yeah, yeah. You know, but it's such a, you know, it's such a privilege, and I know it's by the grace of God. I know it's not something that you know, I've worked my power and might to do, but I know that if nothing else, God's put me in a position where I'm there for them.
Mm.
And all that. And well, no matter what they do, when they turn back, they would always see me there. You know, so yeah, that's it's just having them is a reward in itself. You know, Bible talks about kids and talks about them being a gift.
Mm.
And I remember then when we, excuse me, got my.
Well done. I was going to wear my hoodie, but the weather doesn't permit me to wear the hoodie today, so I will wear it another time. Yes.
I was just
Well
going to say
done.
one thing about the mug. Sorry, before it's not meant for left-handers. So when you use your left hand to pick up the mug, you don't see anything.
We'll
When
take
you use
that.
your right hand,
Okay. We'll take that on board, and we'll let our designers know in future that yes,
please do.
when they do the work, they need to design it. There needs to be quality, and there needs to be diversity, and there needs to be inclusivity, so that we
Thank you.
include right-handed people and left-handed people.
Yeah. So what I was saying is that, you know, a child is a gift, and one thing that, you know, the good book says is that, you know, that when you're given this, when God gives you a gift, it doesn't come with any sorrow. So the first thing for me is that when we gave birth to Indam, well, like, what hit me was that was my first daughter was like, wow, you've been given a mind blowing gift. And the second question is like, oh, so how do we actually, like for me, I actually read some books. So I thought I was like, yeah, you know, I'm good. But the second I held her, I was like, what do I do? You know, everything I thought I knew kind of just disappeared and all that. But then gradually it all comes back. And, you know, I was like, okay, so God's given us this gift. How are we, what are we doing? So the first thing is that, you know, this gift comes with no sorrow. Second thing is that, well, if God has given us this gift, that means that everything required to make this gift who God wants her to be, God has given myself and David. So hey, whatever happens from here, that's the foundation. We're good.
So when you had that child the first time,
Yeah.
and that little bundle was put in your hand, in your arms, how did you feel? Can
And
you describe? Can you describe the moment?
it's hard. I mean, there were tears. You know, I was just awestruck. I was like, wow. And then I was looking at David and I was like, from you, you know, and all that. But it was a good thing because I'd always in my thinking has always been, whenever we're gonna have a child, I will be there. I'll be in the room, you know. So, you know, that was settled. So I was there. I was seeing everything. One thing I'd advise guys is that when you go into the room on that day, make sure you're not wearing a tie. You might be strangled to death. So as one life is coming, another one might be disappearing. But anyway, you know, but you know, I was just in awe. Like, wow. You know, words seem to fail you at that time, to be honest, because you're like, well, yeah.
And so for me, I do remember when we had our first son, and I still pride myself on this. I was the first person to see the baby, not my wife.
Well, true.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
So that can't be taken away from me. Yes. So
That's a good one.
the baby came into my arms. I cut the cord. I cuddled the baby first. So I bonded with the baby first before giving it to my wife. So that cannot be taken away from me. But like you said, you get this bundle of joy because I think the baby must have come in around 4 a.m. and we were still in the era pre WhatsApp, so yes, the best social media we had was text. So at 4 a.m. in the morning, I found myself texting everybody that I knew. And then it was only later on that I'm just thinking people will be waking up because their text message was going off at that time, asking what's wrong. But I just couldn't hold it. So it's really a bundle of joy. So when they call babies bundles of joy, they're really bundles of joy. But it's also scary because you now have this product without a manual. So which button do you press to stop the baby from crying? Which buttons do you press to make the baby happy? So how do you navigate through all of those uncharted territory? Because it's almost like a walk in the wilderness. No matter what anybody has told you, no matter what anybody has taught you, no matter what books you've read, it still doesn't prepare you. So how do you navigate through the? And I'll tell you one of my experiences that there's no way you can prepare for it, but it's also a joyous thing. I'll tell you about that. So how do you prepare for that bit where you've got a product, but you don't know what to do with the product, and yet you have to make this product work?
Well, like you said, there's no manual, right? so something that, like I said, like for me, I'd read some books. I'd also had, you also look back at how you've watched some fathers do their thing. So you're thinking, okay, yeah, I've got that. I've seen how this guy does it. So, when mine comes, I know what to do. If the baby's crying, just juggle the baby a bit, after a while, the baby will stop crying, always be there with the baby in case anything's going to happen, all those things, I think that you think might be the way forward. But what always hits you is the fact that I think every single child is just different. You understand? You see some children when you think, or when they're crying, you want to carry them, and the more you do this, the more they start crying. Then you stand still and they stop crying, and you're like, okay, that's odd. So you've got a standstill baby. then you have the ones that are like, if they're eating and your mouth is not moving, they start crying. If you give them food and you two or you're singing and all that, and they say, hey, now you're doing your job. So you just realize that I think it's almost like you're building a relationship from scratch. You understand? It's almost like you're molding something from scratch that only both of you understand. And so you realize that over the same thing when you're giving the child a bath, and you're like, oh, some say you should do it like this, you do it like that. Your child doesn't like, you do it in another way. And the baby's like, fantastic. That's exactly how I want you to carry me. so many times you realize that, and like I said, there's just no one size fits all when it comes to, bringing up the little ones.
So you talked about bath. How did you manage the first bath of your daughter?
Can't lie, I didn't manage. I wasn't the one that did the first bath for my daughter.
But when you gave your daughter the first bath, the first time you bathed your daughter, how did you handle it? How did you get on with it? Was it like an egg in your hand, or was it, I'm just going to get on with it, mature and get it through?
Yeah, I think I'm a quick learner. So I'd watched. I think my mother-in-law was here, God bless her, and WC was on point. So I'd watch WC how she do it and all that. And one thing I realized was that, they weren't as delicate as you thought they were. But it's almost like actually you can actually, I mean, look at when they bring some of these babies out, they actually hold them with one leg, and you're like, don't do that. But you just realize that, they're not as flimsy or as delicate as you thought they were. So when I'd watched BBC do it, I was like, okay, me too. I can do this. I think the first time I bathed her in that, I think, so she's always very, very exposed with her eyes. She's like, I think she was just looking at me that,
what are you doing?
You're not the one who does this, so handle me with care. and you could almost see that in her eyes. So if you mess up, but yeah, I think it went well, and I think that's also because I'd watched how it was done, and and in that way, in that sense, I actually had a bit of a head start. I had a bit of a manual for that one.
So you've got daughters, so I don't think you have the challenges of what fathers with sons go through. because I don't know if daughters baptize and bless their dads the way sons do. Because for everybody that has a son, the manual doesn't prepare you for when you're changing that diaper and you think they've done it, and then the next thing is something hot hits you in the face. So, but I don't know if daughters do that at all or not.
They do it in their own way.
Okay.
But but like I think we had this discussion the other day, and I was like, well, when you receive the fountain of life, you receive it with joy.
Yeah. Because it's a very hot projectile. It hits you in the
Yeah.
face. And all you can just do is laugh. But then it's when it happens to you when you're about to go to work or you're dressed up and you're just about to go and then you get baptized. Yeah. Yeah. But I guess it's one of the joys of being a father. And then you then have to navigate this product through babyhood to toddlers. You navigate them through sitting all the time to crawling, and from crawling to walking and falling. How do you manage that bit of it where it seems like they're trying, but they're not making it? Because you see them, particularly when they're trying to crawl, they get up, try to stand, walk for a few minutes, and then fall down. Sometimes they cry, sometimes they don't cry. How do you manage that?
Uh, I think yeah. Well, the way I say it is that because you're there, I remember that you've been there from the beginning. Whenever they're stepping into something new, it's almost like your very presence gives them confidence. You know, like I'd go to my second born. She comes into the world, and I mean, she's looking. What when she started crawling, in her mind, you could almost read her mind. She was like, "Why is everyone on two legs and I'm on fours?" You know. So in her mind, it was almost like I need to walk now, and all that. So she'd get up, fall, and all that. So for us, it was like, okay, calm down, but calm down didn't work. You know, and if you know Tish is very, I need to do it now. It needs to happen now. You know, it's just always, and this goes all the way. You know, you're always there as a teenager, as an adult. You're always there. You're always that person that they can rely on, that person that they can be themselves with, that person that they can pour out their hearts to, that person who's come back home. You know, it's. I think that's always that in my mind. That's always the person, and I think with myself and DBC, that's always who we intentionally plan to be. We tell the girls that, look, it doesn't matter what you do. Not as if we're going to love it all the time. So don't get it wrong. But it doesn't matter what you do. You can always come back home. We're always here for you. So I think with the toddler stages, that's part of the fact that this man, this woman has always been there. This mom, this dad, they've always been there. Even if I'm about to fall, I know they will catch me. You know, like we normally say in our house that, look, and I think it's true with trust. Anytime I carry, I'm not sure whether it was anytime I carry them, what they do is that they throw their head back, and if you're not careful, strength with which they do it can take them out of your hands.
Wow.
And in my mind, I think that if the first time you did this you fell down, I'm sure you wouldn't be throwing that head back. Do you understand? But because they know that when they do that with all their power and might, I'm not going to let them go, or the mom's not going to let them go. They just keep on doing it. So you realize that the first lessons for trust are always built in the house. Do you understand? And all that. So yeah.
So everlasting arms beneath, always upholding them, never failing. So does it make any difference being a second time dad? So if you've had one before, does it make the second one easier? Are they the same? Do they follow the same rules and principles?
I would definitely say never make the mistake of thinking the two kids are going to, or the 2 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 11 are going to be the same. There's always going to be, if you make the mistake of thinking this is, I hear some moms and dads say that thing, your sister or your brother was not like this. And all that. But the truth of the matter is that each child comes with their own identity. And I think the joy when it comes to being a dad, being a mom, being a parent, is almost like taking a step back and actually watching it like, okay, in which ways let me know this child for who he or she is. Don't let me impose what I've learned about, from my experience with your big brother or your big sisters and all that. Don't let me impose that on you. Be yourself. Let me see you.
So each child is genetically different and they will do different things in different ways. So one will work at one, the other will work at two. So you shouldn't use one to judge the other. So going through the different stages, so we know there's the baby stage, there's the toddler stage. You also get to the stage where they become children running around. So they come home with their scrapes and their falls and their hurts. How do you manage that bit? So the first time they come with a bleeding leg, or the first time they come with their heads knocked, or the first time, particularly when you're teaching them how to cycle. So you remove the stabilizers for the first time and they fall. How do you encourage them to carry on going at that point?
I think that's one for me. That's one of the easiest things, because I'm like, I think in that respect, I think that's for me and DBC too. We've fallen down many times, but we always get up. And I think that one good thing is that, when kids are there, kids are very attentive, and it doesn't matter what age they are, they're always looking at you. They're always watching and all that. So they're always looking at, when you say something, or they say, what's dad's comeback? What's mom's comeback? What are they going to do? So I think, so with our children, there's even when they say they're about to give up. In fact, I think one of the things that they're afraid of saying sometimes, and I'm sorry for this, I need that. But one of the things they're afraid of saying is that I can't do it. because we're not I can't people. Most of the time we're like, if we're in that position, that means that God has given us what it takes to excel in that position. So I know. So when the kids wanted to start learning how to ride a bike and all that, I'm thinking that let's start from this position. You can do it. So you can fall down many times and all that, but the ultimate result is that you will ride the bike. So I think, and with what we do with them, that's where we are. And all that. So they always know that someone like Tisha that likes playing football, initially it would be like, oh, I can't even shoot, I can't even do that. Don't worry, you keep at it, because we know you can. So most likely you will. And that doesn't mean that we're enforcing anything on them. These are things that they love doing. But because, every child needs encouragement. So you see a child that loves something, and then, how kids are, they come and they were like, oh, I'm not even doing it anymore. That's not what they mean. So many times what they mean is like, okay, I love this thing. I need you to encourage me to go forward. You understand? So with us, we're just encouragers. We're there for them.
But then that's a language that you're talking about, that emotional language, because they are saying something. The question is, are you hearing what they are saying? So how do you prepare yourself to be able to understand their language? So like you said, when they say, oh, I'm not even doing it anymore, it's not because they don't want to do it anymore, but they're looking for some affirmation and encouragement from you. But how do you know when they truly, really mean it? How do you decode that bit of the language?
Yeah, I think the decoding comes with, remember, this is the child that you're there and you're bringing up. So over time, now if you speak to your son, you're like, when this guy is doing this, I know exactly what he's doing. When he's doing this, I know he's trying to cover something up. You just know those things. Why? Because you've been there with him. You've watched the way he does things. You've just read him. I know. So, so many, that's why I started off with saying that so many of these things, it all falls back to that place of being actively present. When you're actually present, you're building that bond. You understand? So it's like like there are times when I ask my daughters, have you done this? And they go, yeah. And they haven't done it. you just know. And then I'm like, no, you haven't done it, so go and do it. They just know. So and that's because you know how they operate. You understand? Who ate this? Daddy, but you weren't going to eat it. That's not that. So that means it was you. So there's so many things, because you're there and because you've seen them grow up over time. There's that thing where your presence, has created a bond. So you kind of like, you like know each other. And the funny thing is that it's the same thing with you. They know when you're trying to hide something.
Yeah.
They know, they know it's like, Dad, just say it as it is. We know that you're not saying this thing. We want to hear it. Just say it. You understand? So many times for me, it's also that place of like, I think when I'm at home, I'm in a place where, it's a real environment. We just keep it real in the house. Yeah, understand? So anyone can say, I mean, like I said, like Tisha, who's my last one, she even uses it against us. Well, you brought me up to be expressive, so if you don't want to hear it,
Too late.
you understand? So I think with a lot of these things, it's like, always for me, it goes back to that place of, because I'm actively there, it's easier to decode over time how they, when they're saying different things, how to, what it really means and how I can react.
So just before we go into the next stage of a child's development, which can be quite challenging when we go into adolescence. Now, how do you also manage some of those myths that children grow up with? I know you also have to play along with it. So, for example, when they lose their first tooth, how do you carry on that myth of the fairy tale? Because for me, I think myths are useful. Yes, we know it's not true, but we know those myths are useful. How do you manage those myths? How do you manage the myth of Father Christmas coming to deliver their presents? Because they are waiting for Father Christmas to deliver their presents. How do you manage those myths?
I think, well, I'll come once again from our side. It gets to a stage. Initially, it was always like, yeah, we're expecting. I think for them, they always thought that mom and dad would Father Christmas anyway. so, 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 well, and what we do is that I remember then when they were growing up, I'd make sure that everyone's gone to bed, and then I'd get the sack, put the stuff inside it, put it under the tree and all that, sprinkle some snow or whatever and all that, and then they'd wake up, hey, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think it was when Oinja was 4 and all that, and when we were opening presents and all that, and I think it was almost like she looked like maybe there was something maybe she wanted something, or maybe I can't remember properly, but it was almost like, Dad, where's the and you're like, no, maybe Father Christmas didn't bring it. We all know that that's not real. Where are the goods? You understand? So I think for mine, they knew from time that So after 2-3 years and all that, it was almost like they will tell you what their list is, and they give you the list, and I'm like, don't give me the list, man, give it to Father Christmas. Don't worry, you can give it to him. just get it done.
And how
So
do you manage?
and even with the tooth fairy, it's similar, isn't it? Initially, you put you take you put the tooth under the pillow, and then you take it and put a pound there or something and all that, and then I said, well, after a while, they were getting old, right? So I was like, okay, well, since you know that dad and mom, there's no Father Christmas, I guess there's no tooth fairy either. So what you do is that they'd wake up in the morning and the tooth will still be there. And they were like, no money. I said, but there's no tooth fairy now. So, so, yeah, so those are just the joys.
And then sort of going through that stage, particularly when you have a child that is of the opposite sex and they start to go through evolutionary period of adolescence. How do you manage it when their hormones start to burst forth and their mannerisms start to change? What are the challenges that you see there?
What are the challenges? Well, I think like one thing I also said in the beginning was that thing where so I've got girls, but they talk to me. And I think one thing I learned very early was whenever they came to me, even if it was with something that seems like this is not for a man, I'd be in a position where I'd say, I'm there to listen. I think one of the mistakes we make sometimes is that when your son or your daughter goes to meet his mom or her dad, and they ask you the question, they're not asking you because they know they could have asked their mom. They're asking you because they actually want to ask you, and they will never go and meet your mom. Yeah, I think the response at that point in time is like, well, she's asking me this. So how do I, what do I? So most of the time, I even when it's something that's has taken me, I'm taken aback with and all that. I think I've got this expression where I'm like, okay, yeah, yeah. See, but these things happen. I'm sure your mom can explain it a bit better, but this is how I see it and all that. And I think what it does is that it creates it creates that area where they know that you understand. You might not know the intricacies. I mean, you're a doctor, but you might not know the intricacies and all that stuff. But they know that when I say, Dad, I think my period is coming and all that, they know exactly. They know that I know what's happening. You understand? So even to the extent that when maybe one of my daughters goes, oh, I'm feeling like this. I took it just maybe you're about to have your period. So it's almost like you're almost like you're tuned in.
So I was going to ask you, because it's a different biology for a man, it's a different biology for a woman. How did you navigate that bit where they could talk to you about their period so that it's not a taboo? Because for a lot of men, somebody mentions period, they switch off completely. But then when it becomes your daughter, there's no running away from it. So how did you break
You can
that
run.
barrier?
You can run. You can run.
So how did you break
I
that
think.
barrier to be able to talk about it and understand some of the challenges? Because the first period is not easy. They don't know what's happening. If they come to your dad, you don't know what's happening. And then who is the best person for them to go to? And then when they also go to some of those challenges and they need sympathy, who is the best person to go to? Somebody that goes through it or somebody that doesn't go through it? So how do you navigate those bits of it?
Mm. I think when initially, I think Davis had done a good job anyway. For me, most of the time, it's like I'm sitting in and listening. So even when Davis would explain, when she explained to the girls that, this is this and all that, for me, I'm like, okay, I'm learning. Okay, yeah, yeah. So even though I'd read some things and all that, and I had an idea, watching that and listening to them, I'm like, okay. So this is what's happening here and all that. So in my head, and I'm a picture person.
Mm.
So as you're talking, I'm building the imagination. I'm like, okay, okay, all right. So a lot of things are going on in my mind and all that. But the thing is that, like I said, once again, because even when maybe Davis is telling them you're actually there, because I'm there, I'm listening. It's almost like, oh, you're a part of this.
Mm.
So you might not go through it. I mean, the girls always tell me, "Oh, Dad, you can't understand. You're not going through it." And I say,
Yeah.
I hold my hands up. I can't, but I know I have an idea of what's happening.
Mm.
You understand? And that part you can't take away from me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you understand. So I think so. And once again, I because I have girls. Once again, there are a lot of things that I try and feel very comfortable in, even when it seems it should be embarrassing.
Mm.
And all that. For those who know me, they'll know that no matter how you can come with me, whether I work or play and all that, you can come with me with something, and it can look like, wow, this is how, like, okay, I can see how you did that. So it can be annoying at times, I know, but the thing, what it was like, because of the way I've been brought up, is always like there's so many you've had so many knocks and hits and all that. You need to be in a place where whenever those things are coming, and however they're coming, you're in a place where you're not going to take it down. Yeah, so there are a lot of things that when the girls come and they're telling me this and they're telling me that and all that. I mean, I can remember one situation. I hope Oindam doesn't kill me for this. Oindam, no, I'm sorry, but I remember this was Oindam like back in primary school. Peter and two or three other girls had gone into trouble, and it was big. We had other parents making a lot of noise, and it was all tilting towards this place where they were going to almost kick our daughter out of the school. And we were like, wow, Debussy, she was doing her thing. She was crying. She was like, oh no, how could you do this? This is not how we brought you up. This is, and all that. And we were just like, so I was just like, okay, what happened? How did this happen? Da, 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 da. Anyway, moving forward, we got to a place where the headmistress had called us in. Now, At times, there are ways, there are times when you're bringing your children up, and there are things you almost regret, because we'd always told them that, look, tell when they ask you the question, tell the truth. Just tell the truth. So we got to a situation where it now seems to be that Oyindamola had told the truth, and all the other girls involved hadn't. So now we were now called in, and we were now given this story of what had happened. So the headmistress is going on and on and on, and then she's saying all this. And while she's saying everything, in my mind, it just hit me that they're about to kick your daughter out of the school. And she's going on, this has never happened in the school. This has never happened. This has never been done. And I'm like, okay, never. And when that hit me, I just had this big conviction that she's going nowhere. So when she finished, I said, okay, I understand everything you've said, but we all know that she's not leaving the school. So what we now need to do is find a way forward on how we resolve this issue. Anyway, while I was doing it, and that's why, like I say, one thing that we should never ever neglect. I'm not sure that I'm sure that we're not all Christians on here, but I'm a person of faith. Always kids. Always pray for your kids. You see, the thing about it is that you can't always be there, but God always will. So that prayer of protection over their lives and all that, always, never take it for granted. But anyway, I'll come back. So while she was saying that, I said, well, we all know she's not leaving the school. So what are we going to do? And she was like, well, we've never been here before, so I don't know. And right there and then, God just gave me and gave me an idea. And I said, okay, so this is what we'll do. And I presented it to her. And she was you could see in her face that, oh no. So now, I'm not sure whether what they had spoken to, maybe they had spoken to the board of trustees and they had come to a conclusion that this is what was going to happen. I didn't know. But at that point in time, after what I said, that whatever they planned to do could not happen. And ultimately it got solved. And ultimately she went on to be a girl in the school. And all the other girls that were involved in that thing, all of them left the school. And people imagine that they were actually the troublemakers. But because they had the lights on and we didn't, adults were in trouble. What I'm saying is that at the end of the day, because we were there. I mean, I can imagine how many kids could have been kicked out of school as a result of parents that weren't for their kids at that point in time. So different things happen. But because we're there, we're present. Once again, I'm mentioning we're present. It's becoming a song, but actively being there changes the whole situation so many times. And I'll say this, your presence just tends to build confidence in children. When they see you, it's almost like, oh, I can fall back on dad, I can fall back on mom. They're there for me.
So at that point, when you were going through all that, did you feel that as a dad you had failed? Did you feel that there was something you could have done better? Did you feel, why did this happen? How did this happen? Is this all my fault? So in essence, have you ever felt like you failed in that instance? And is it possible as a dad sometimes to have that feeling that, yes, I have failed?
I think you can. I mean, I'm a weird person. Like I'll say that again. I felt like, what could we have done to change this? You understand? And it was almost like the Holy Spirit saying that, not much, but what's to keep on doing the right things. You understand? I mean, you see some children, not being funny, you see some children and you're like, your dad's not like this, your mom's not like this. You understand? And all that. And, so many things, even though we're in that place where, we're building up our children and all that, when they go out, when they mix with people, when they do different things and all that, you're not there. You can't see all those things. You understand? That's where you're just believing God that, like the Bible says that, you train up your child in the way they should go. And when they're old, they will not. It's a promise. They will not depart from it. So I think for me, I always have this singing inside me that, well, we're really doing the best we can, and all that. So I don't think we felt like failures. I mean, questions could be asked that, oh, could we have done things better? Yes. I mean, that's what, because when you make a mistake, I mean, there's nothing wrong with making a mistake, but it's dumb for you to think that I'm not going to go back and think and look at what caused this mistake to happen so that it doesn't happen again. So mistakes are okay. You understand? But the truth is that when a mistake happens, you need to look at, okay, why did this happen, and see what you can do to ensure that it doesn't happen again and all that. So I don't think we felt like failures.
Okay.
I just felt like, well, this is another phase.
I was just going to ask you a question. I'm sorry, I keep going back to this now. So, do you feel embarrassed going to the shop and walking that women's aisle, picking up stuff for your girls, or you don't?
I don't. I don't. In fact, I think, they feel when I like maybe times we go into when they want to buy underwear or lingerie and all that stuff, and we go in and I'm like, should I come in? Just stay outside. I've got no problems at all going in there. You know, it's all good. So they feel embarrassed on my behalf.
And so
now, don't go in, just stay outside. We'll come out.
So they've never run out of supplies, and so they are cramping at home. They can't go out, and they say, "Dad, can you help me get this sanitary wear or something?" Do you feel embarrassed going into, or do you just, I don't care, just pick up what you need to pick and then go away from the store?
I think, well, I don't feel embarrassed, and that's just the truth. I don't, and then because what even happens is so many of them. I mean, I tend to do a lot of shopping, so maybe online shopping and all that. So, and even if I go into the shop and David says, "Can I pick this up?" That's my life. You understand? So I don't really feel. Although I do wonder how they would feel if I said that you go and pick up something manly from the shop. Okay, that's another.
You never know. Something,
but I don't really
something
feel,
to explore.
I don't feel bad.
Try.
Yeah, I might try that.
Okay, and then in terms of schooling, how do you? I know you talked a little bit about school, but the first time they went to school, how do you cope with it? You stand by that door, you hand your child over to a complete stranger, and then you are walking away. And as a dad, how did you feel? And how do you think they felt when this only person they've known all their life and they've trusted is now handing them over to this completely strange person?
I think it's hard. I felt really, I felt emotional because not just for myself, but like you said, for the child, because they're also leaving home and they're going to a place of unknown, and like, wow, and you're just hoping and that, man, can you look after this child the way I have been looking after her? Most likely not. And all that. But one thing that also helps is knowing that they're going to the right place. I remember then when we were looking for a school for Indamola then, and we'd been to in our area that we didn't like any of the schools in that area, so we went to some other areas. And to one lovely school and all that. And one thing was like, they just kept on going on about the fact that, we have a 0 failure rate. I don't know. Every time I heard it, it just kind of messed me up that one person must fail now. at least one person. So, and the way I had always looked at it that I wanted the girls to be rounded. Whether sports, music, academics, everything. So we were there, lovely school and all that, but I just, they were just like, is this the place for them and all that? Not really. We weren't sure, but we put our name on the list and all that. Well, when it happens, but then we now went to another school, and we as they were talking about the school, I was, inside me I was like, this is the place. This is the place. And I didn't like the headmistress, but then this was the place. But that was it. So the thing was that when on that first day, it was almost like, because we kind of knew that this was where they were meant to be, or this is where she was meant to be, there was that piece, but then it was also hard because you're also looking at if rights. I think for our girls, they kind of took into it pretty. They just were like, well, okay, you're sending us here, right? So is it all good? All good, all right. and so it wasn't, but it was hard. It was emotional on my end. Retro was emotional. It was emotional on Davies' ends, and all that. And when you're taking days off work so that you can be in case they call, I'm going to be there. Yeah, you know that. It's a bit hard.
And then how do you navigate adolescence into teenagehood and teenagehood into technically adulthood? So they've gone through that initial phase of adolescence, and there tends to be a little bit of kind of rebellious attitude at that point. How do you navigate that change where they may, I don't want to use the word rebellion, is not the right word to do, but they become a little bit more assertive and they challenge you a little bit more? How do you handle that?
At those times we should take a look at ourselves, because I think it's pretty wrong to think that. I mean, when we were growing up, I mean, how many times did you take your dad's car when he told you not to? How many times? How many times? So I think then. I mean, I'm not saying, but the way I look at it is that even when there's that talking back and all that stuff, and you get annoyed, you need to go back to that place of like, I remember when I was 18 years old.
Mm.
You understand? So I think for us, you should have that a bit more understanding. And all that. So it's like, even when, and I think a soft tone, quenches a lot of things. So there are times when kids when they want to push something through, and in their minds they think yonks that, how am I going to tell mom? How am I going to tell daddy? If I come like this, if I come like that, they're thinking about all the angles, and they're thinking about, they know how you're going to respond. They think they know how you're going to respond, and they're doing all that. So when they come, they're like, Dad, I'm going out tonight. The response most of the time is, you are. Who told you? You understand? So but then the response could be, oh yeah, who are you going out with? You're going out with your friends. Okay. Where are you guys going? You can almost see the picture, and you can see their faces. They're like, okay, this is not the reaction. So something's not right here, and all that. Said, okay, no problem, you can go out, but be back by this time. And already, even if they wanted to fight the time to come back, they've already lost that battle initially. So they're like, oh no, let me just take what I've got and run. You understand? So I think so most of the time it's we should be in a place of understanding, knowing that we too have been in some place when we were their age. Yes, I mean, our prayer is always that they will do things a lot better than the way we did them.
Yes.
And to be fair, a lot of them are. You understand?
Now,
your child's when you notice some changes and you're like, hey, why are you behaving like this? Yes, tell them off, chastise them, ensure they get like I tell, like the girls know, when we don't like something, we don't like it, and you cannot look. I'm your mom. I'm your dad. You can't enforce what you want on me. If you tell me something and I don't like it, I will tell you I don't like it. You can go ahead and do it, but I'm telling you, I do not agree with what you're about to do. Now, they look at it that, oh, that's like manipulation. And that's because they always want you to agree with them. You understand? But then, we're not always going to agree with you. We don't always like what you want to do. We don't always enjoy your choices. But if you say what you want to do, and you think you're comfortable with that, fuck you. But like I said, well, you know what? We go back to that scripture that, look, we've been praying, we've been believing God. We're trying to train up these kids in the way they should go, with holding on to the promise that when they grow old, they will not depart from it. So the confidence you almost have is that ultimately, even if they go do all the things they think they're going to do, ultimately, they will do the right thing.
So at the beginning, you said being a dad is a choice. Now, because it's a choice, what do you now do with that choice going forward? When do you start to map out a life path for this product that you have? So you've got something, and you know that, God willing, many more years. So when do you start to plan? Okay, at 1 year, this is what they should be doing. At 5 years, this is what they should be doing. At 10 years, this is what they should be doing. At 15 years, this is what they should be doing. And then also get ready for that period when they are 18, and then you are thinking, okay, I want you to go left. Although you'll be training them to go left, they just come and they now say, actually, I want to go right. How do you negotiate and manage that bit? So when you start mapping out a life path for them, and what do you do when you now hit a junction and they want to go in a different direction to what you are thinking?
I think you're basically mapping out that plan from the very beginning. You're like, okay, I'm going to get when they're born. I mean, it's still, I'm going to breastfeed for this long. I'm going to start giving them milk at this point in time. I'm going to do this at this point in time. You're mapping everything out. So at this point in time, I'm going to send her to nursery. At this point in time, she's going to get into school. At this point in time, she's going to get into big school. At this point in time, she will sit her GCSEs. I will ensure that she gets A's in these courses so that she will now go and do medicine, or she'll go and do law, or she'll go and do engineering. You see, you're almost like planning. You're thinking ahead on so many levels and all that. So I always look at it that a lot of those plans, have them in place, but you almost have to be a bit fluid with them and all that. I look at it like this, like my dad. One thing that I mean, at times I think I have an unfair advantage. I can't lie, because my dad was always, he was just there. Then when I was young, growing up, he was studying in another city and all that. So there I am, I'm about to run for the school. I'd look around, okay, mom's here, dad's not here, okay, he's schooling, isn't he? And next thing, I just about to run for the school, and next thing I'll just look up and he's appeared. He would just do these funny things where out of nowhere he would just be like, I'm here. So for me, growing up, I'd always been in that place where my dad was present, So in a lot of these things, you can imagine the time when. So for him, he too was very like that. He had planned out. I mean, I was meant to be a doctor, and the way he did it was, he did it in such a way that, was that when I was going to do my JAM exams, that's the exams you do to get into university in Nigeria. He ensured that, in as much as I love mathematics, he ensured that I did physics, chemistry, biology. So then I got my mark and all that, and okay, well, I didn't get the mark to get into medicine. In a sense, inside me, I was happy that, well, medicine's not happening and all that. But you see, my dad said, okay, so this 250 that you have, let's go and see what we can do. And we get up, and the man doesn't even know the dean of medicine. He sees the guy's secretary and says, oh yeah, he wants to see the dean. He said, no, but just tell him I'm here. That he will want to see me. So the secretary goes up and tells the dean that, oh, there's this man outside. He says he wants to see you. And the guy lets him in. They go inside, they talk for a bit, and then they now call me in. And the way they're talking, as if they've known each other forever, I'm like, wow, okay. Anyway, long and short, he goes, so your dad tells me you want to do medicine. No problem, you got spots. But I'll ask the question, do you want to do medicine? I just said, after everything the man has done, I just said no. I said I want to do something that has maths in it. From that point on to the drive back home, my dad didn't say a word, which is very unusual. And then we get into the house, and he just goes upstairs, and my mom is like, what happened? And I tell her I'm going to be doing structural engineering in Ife. So she's like, structural engineering? I thought you were going to go and do medicine and all that. But the thing about it was, like, I think even my dad realized at that point in time, look, doesn't want to do medicine. He understands. It will be an injustice for me to now enforce that on him. So that's why all three. So I think it's the same with us. We're in that place where for them, a lot of them, even better than us, they seem to know a bit more about what they're thinking of doing at an earlier age and all that. So many times it's for us to be knowledgeable, think about what they're talking about, listen to them. And while we're listening, it's like, okay, encourage them. Okay, so if you want to do this, it's like if someone says that she wants to be a dancer, one thing that we always look at is that you can be a dancer, but you're going to go to the best school dancing. You're not going to be educated or be the best or one of the best in the thing that you want to do. So if you want to sing, go to music school. You go and learn the intricacies of music. If you want to dance, you go to dance school, go and learn the intricacies. See, so that's always the way we see it. So I don't think for us we can't. I mean, like Oyinda Mola, she's doing architecture. She said she wanted to do architecture when she was in year 8. When she said it, all of us were like, that will change, don't worry. But there she is. She's doing that's so for us, it was almost like, okay, what does she want to do? Let's encourage her with what she wants to do. And that's what we do. We encourage her to enjoy what she wants to do.
So just going through that phase that your dad went through, what do you think is the hardest thing as a father that you've been through, but people don't talk about? So your dad, he's going to do everything that he could do to get you into medicine, and you floored him. And the first thing he did when he got home was not to speak to his wife, was just to go upstairs. So what are some of those hardest things that you've encountered, but it's also not easy to talk about, and should we be talking about it?
So what you said that.
So
should we talk? Sorry, I missed you a bit.
What's one of the hardest things as a father you've had to deal with? But why is it also that some of those hardest things we don't talk about it as fathers?
So what is one of the hardest things? I think one of the hardest things for me is when I could almost visibly see, my child going in a direction which I kind of know that, nah, that's not it. You understand? And then you're in that place where you're trying to fight that thing. You're trying to use force. Like, no, don't do that thing. That's not the way to go and all that. And then after all is said and done, you understand? Basically, they just ignore your advice anyway and and do that thing. I think it's hard. It's hard, but the one thing I don't think we do is hold that against them. One thing I tell my siblings is that everybody should have their own experience, but that there are times we have to experience it personally. If someone has been through it, that person experiencing it is your own experience too. You can take it. So rather than go through the pain and struggle, you've learned something. So at times, when we're talking to the children, you're in that place where you're saying that, look, there's really nothing that you're going through, because with a lot of the young adults nowadays and the young children, they think that's we're in a totally different realm that you guys can never understand. But the funny thing is that in different ways, what you're going through, we went through it too, but in a different form and fashion. So many times when you're dropping that knowledge, I think now they've come to realize that it's true. But initially, you're dropping that knowledge and all that, and their thinking is like, this man doesn't understand what I'm talking about and all that. So because they think you don't understand, they tend to want just go ahead and try and do what they think is the right thing to do. But I think when it gets to that stage, when they begin to realize that actually, mom's got experience in this thing, dad's got knowledge in this thing. When you say that thing, what you now see there, and you can see it. It's almost like they go back and they're pondering, they're mixing what they want to do with the knowledge they've just been given and all that, and they're like, okay, I see where you're coming from, and and about, like you said, like go back to what you said initially. I mean, when you say, I mean, let's be honest, when you say something and you tell your child something, your desire is that what you're telling them they will listen to. That's always your desire and all that. But then, and I think that's going back to being prayerful. Also, that's also that place where you're like, okay, I've dropped what I would really want this child to do and all that. Now, after spending hours discussing this one topic, the response to what you've just spoken about is the exact opposite from your daughter or your son. You feel like, so why did we just spend two hours talking? Well, that's because you expected that after spending 2 hours talking, what you have said is what they will do. And that's not always the case.
Okay. So just one other thing that I just wanted to ask before I throw the floor open so that people can ask questions.
Okay.
How do you handle the pressure of being a father and having to also project that I have it all together, even when you don't have it all together? So your children see you as a father that has it all, but sometimes on the inside of you, I don't have it all. But you also cannot go and say I don't have it all. So how do you handle the pressure of having it all together and projecting that to your children?
Yeah, I think I'm like I said, I'm in a bit I'm in a bit of a weird situation because I'm pretty real. So I've got daughters who know when that you don't know the answer to that. Just say you don't know. You understand? And I think one of the best things is like, look, we know a lot, but we don't know it all. And like I call these kids, I call them the Y generation. There must be a why. So why,
Every
so why
question.
do you want me to do this thing?
Yeah.
You understand? There must be that why. Why? You can't say we've left the place of like, I am your dad. Make sure you go and do it. That doesn't seem to work any longer, right? So the thing about it is that most of it, and that's why going back, that's why we discussed that thing about the reason why I would prefer that you don't do that thing is because of this, and that. Now, there's some things that they bring to you and they're asking you some questions, and the honest truth is that you just don't know. And I think the best thing to do at that point in time is just say, I ain't gonna lie to you, I don't know. And all that. But in not knowing, I will go and research what we're talking about, and we will have a solution to what you're talking about. So I think what it is like, as a father, you're in a place where you're real. In that kind of situation, I mean, I'll talk from my viewpoint, is that they will always come back knowing that whatever I tell them is the real me.
Yeah.
So even if they don't like it, they know exactly where mom and dad stand concerning a situation. So I don't like we said, it's a choice. It's a God-given choice. A lot of these things, I can choose not to be the father now. But I have chosen to be. You understand? And since I am your dad and all that, I will do the dad thing. I will try and protect you the best way I can. I will always pray for you. I will always believe the best when it comes to you. And I will always believe that God will take you to where God wants you to be at the end of the day. God just used me as a vessel for the kids. And that's so.
So do you speak
That's
to
it in a nutshell.
Yeah. So do you speak with other fathers? So do you rub minds with other fathers? I know a few weeks ago I was speaking to one of my friends, and some of the challenges we sometimes have is that you go into your children's room and it's just not the way you want it to be. So I don't know whether you have those challenges. And sometimes we don't talk about it, but until you talk about it, you think you're the only one that has that issue. And so you don't want to talk about it because you're not proud of it. But when you start to rub minds with other fathers, you start to see you're not the only one. So do you speak with other fathers? And do you advocate fathers speaking to one another, sharing their experiences, both ups and downs? And sorry, Barista, do you have any questions, please? Let's start getting them in now so we can get the benefit of Akin. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's definitely. I mean, I always think you should surround yourself with a tribe.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you always have people that that they've got your back. That they know that when you spill the beans, when you say your highs and lows, they're not just gonna like dig you and put you under. they understand. I'm not saying they're not going to chastise you, but it's always a chastisement with love. They know where you're coming from. They know exactly. So as long as I'd always say that, yes, speak to people that you know you can trust, people that you know that they believe in you. They know that you're doing your best. They know that even when you're not, they can tell you that, Akin, you shouldn't really have done that. And you know that, well, where this guy is coming from, I see you. You understand? But the problem, I think with we guys so many times is some of us struggle with trusting others, because sometimes you say something and then before you know what's happening, that thing has gone somewhere else, and then you're walking and it's like, this is that guy that they were talking about, and you're like, wow, oh no, this story has gone far away. What happens? You know, so sometimes it's that thing of like finding the people, that tribe of people that you can actually trust, people that you know that they totally have your back, that you know that they're praying for you in your ups and downs, when you're doing it wrong, when you're doing that and all that. Now the funny thing is that most likely they're not going to be too many, but you'll find the one or two. So yeah, that's it. But always a few forums online that you can actually just like tap into. Like, once again, the knowledge isn't always as fantastic as you, but there's some things that that's exactly what I needed. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, always have your groups around that you can tap into. If you're in a church, you can have your mentor guys to tap into. You got, just different areas, but the things that work for you. Don't just say that they said I should be talking to people and then just be opening mouth anyhow. That might not work. You might be burnt.
So somebody asked a question here. I'm going to ask, but just the other thing I just wanted you to do, because you are a prolific author. You've written several books, but I think your latest book is on fatherhood or dadhood. So I'll just ask you to talk a little bit about that book. Give us a very short synopsis so that people may want to go out there to get that book. And I really need you to plug that book now.
Okay, so this is that book. Okay. It's called, what's it called again? Yeah, The Essential Guide for First-Time Dads. And it's got a subtitle about handy tips to build a bond with your baby, support your partner actively, reduce emotional anxiety, and achieve work-life harmony. Now, the funny thing is that when so back in October 2023, I lost my.
Yeah, keep the book. Just you can keep talking, but just keep the book there so we can keep saying it. Yes.
Okay, so back in October 2023, I lost my job, and you know how it is. You're thinking that, oh yeah, I'll get something else, but I actually didn't. And so in the midst of all that, I realized that I got speaking to guys in different. I just get to different places and I'll be speaking to guys and all that. And while you're thinking about, let's talk about proper topics about work and all that stuff, I realized I was missing guys who were talking about family, which I actually love and all that. So it was almost like, okay, this is interesting and all that. And I think it was during that period that the thought initially came to me that maybe this could be something to write about. But then I didn't. Fast forward to around June 24. I think we got to talk. I was in the Jesus House mentoring team, and we're talking to guys in general. And I remember then, I think in October, I was speaking to one chap, and he just went on. His name is Bola. He was talking about his family. He had two young kids and all that. And it was just like, the problem is that, no one ever tells anyone how to do this thing. And I said that, but the truth of the matter is that there's no hard and fast rule on how to do it. And he said, but at least there must be six. And he now asked me some questions, and I started talking to him about my family and how he said, exactly, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So I was like, and I remember going home and I was like, okay, there aren't any hard and fast rules, but there are some things that there are pointers, that you can put in place that, okay, you could do it like this, you could do this, you could do it. Like I said, it's different for every person, but there are some ways that you could look at that might work for you, that other people have been through. and all that. And I remember running it by. I was just talking at home, and my daughter said, yeah, you should actually write a book on dadhood. And when I heard that, I was like, there's no other qualification than that. So I mean, I got to write it now. so really, that's how I put this book together. But I started writing in October, November. Initially it was meant to be just a little pamphlet and all that. But I just started delving in, and I was like, oh, this is something that guys should know. This is what guys should know. So what? Even though this is the title of the book, I've had people read the book now, and they've been telling me that, oh boy, this isn't the title for this book, because I've got kids that are 20 years old, and I'm reading things that I need to know now. So the thing about it, that even though it's packed with so much, even I read it and I'm like, wow, yeah, that is true, and I just get so many different nuggets from it, reading it over and over again. So yeah, that's how I wrote the book. So came out in May. And yeah, it's wherever you want to pick it up from. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and other online stores.
Yeah, it's a book I would like to recommend for everybody and anybody. It's not just for first-time dads. It's for first-time dad. It's for second-time dad. It's for granddads. It's for uncles. It's for brothers. It's for foster parents. It's for adoptive parents. It's for potential dad, expecting dads, expectant dads, any kind of dad, anything that relates to that. And even if you're not a dad and you're a mom, and even if you're not a dad, you're going to be an uncle to somebody, you're going to be a brother to somebody, I strongly recommend that you read the book, because it just helps you understand the dynamics of fatherhood and manhood and the roles that men can play in the lives of people. And sometimes it may just be a mentor. So it's a book that I would highly like to recommend. Now, I know you want to give 5 of those books away today. So we're going to ask a few questions as to who gets the book. But just before we get that, there's a question here: is what's your favorite dad habit or dad tease that your daughters like to tease you with? So yeah, what's your favorite dad habit or that phrase that your daughters like to tease you about?
Yeah, I think I've got quite one of my favorite dad habits is, like, when they're doing their TikTok thing and all that, and dancing and all that. She just like hopping in the background. Hey, I got it too, yay! which they say irritates them, but I think they like it. And then I think one of my best phrases. I think one of my best phrases is, especially when I'm taking football trials, netball trials, or when you want to do exams, is "Damn who you are."
Okay. Do they say that back to you?
Did they what, sir?
Do they say that back to you, your daughters?
No, they just like give the embarrassing look that, oh, okay, yeah, I got it. All right, bye. No, they don't say it back.
So my first question, whoever answers this first will get one of Akin's books. There's a special event taking place in London today. What is that special event that is taking place in central London? And if you do have questions, please just throw it in. So yeah, so there's a special event taking place in central London today. What is this special event? And the other question is, Akin is also related to Hangout Cafe in a specific way. Does anybody know how Akin is related to Hangout Cafe?
I'll give you a clue. Whose mug is this?
Not quite prayer for Christmas, but this is a big event. It's in central London. Traffic has been stopped for it. Security is quite high for it. Yeah.
Oh, I can see people are start Googling it.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So somebody's come up with gun salute for the king's birthday, which is technically correct, but it's called Trooping the Colour, when the British Royal Armed Forces come out in honor of the King's birthday. So, who is that? AYGT Galaxy. I'm not sure. Is that Ayo or I'm not sure who that is. So if you let me know your name or if you approach Pacho Funke, she will give you a copy of the book. Yes, I think it's Trooping the Color, but I think that person described it quite well. So I think it will go to thank you, Omo Babaloke, but I think it will go to AYGT. I'm not sure who that is. And then somebody's come up with what's that answer as to through his wife's DBC. I'm not sure if I should give you that book, that answer, because that's inside knowledge. I don't know. I don't know what you think, Akin. Should we give Korede the book because she's the one who's answered the question that yes, you are related to Hangout Cafe to your wife. Actually, so I'm not sure whether I should like get you to.
If there are any extras, we'll give her.
Okay, so does anybody know how old Hangout Cafe is, or technically when did Hangout Cafe start? Yeah, so I can see people going through the motions, trying to try things out. But let's see how many people know when did Hangout Cafe start. And now that we've mentioned DBC, who knows what DBC's role is in Hangout Cafe? Not just the number of years, date of birth for Hangout Cafe, or the first day that we went live. And yes, so what is Davis's role in Hangout Cafe?
So is that for me?
No, not for you. That's a question that's open to everybody. For somebody to get a book. Okay, somebody's put that DBC is so that's just disappeared off my screen. I just need it to come back. Yeah, DBC is co-host for Hangout Cafe Book Club. Yes, that's Bukola Yemi, and that's true. So you get the book, and then
I'm not sure we can give her the book because she also is the co-host.
Okay. so that's cheating.
That's current.
Okay. One other question then would be, what was the last book that we reviewed in Hangout Cafe? Sorry, there's a lot of noise going on here. I just need to sort out something with my battery. What was the last book that was reviewed in Hangout Cafe? Yeah, is ISO Bio 84. Yeah. Co-host, yes. And the last book that was reviewed in Hangout Cafe. Yes, it says she's also been a barrister and medical consultant, so I think you can give someone else the book. Okay, so that's fine. Okay. Yeah, so ISO Biz 84. So I'm sorry that some of these names are very nice names, very funky names, very energizing names, but it just really doesn't tell me who you truly really are. We need to find out how to sort out who is who and who gets a copy of the book. So for all of the people that we've said won books, they can approach Pastor Funke and they should be able to get the book from her. Yeah, Babaluke, it's not Ojoro, it's not sorry. Yes. No, so the last book we reviewed was not Essential Guides for First Time Dads. No. The last book that we read from Hangout Cafe is not essential. No, we are going to do that. No, because now that you've mentioned it, we need to do that. So, DBC and the other co-host, please get ready to review Akin's book. But who is going to give me the title of the book that we just reviewed? And not from the co-host and not DBC. Okay, so do Jara, just give them for attending and encouraging. Okay, Akin, what do you think?
Yeah, we'll give a few. We're
Okay.
good.
So, if we don't have any other questions, I want to say a really big thank you for everybody that's turned out on this hot summer afternoon to spend some time just learning about dadhood. It's not an easy job. It's not a job that you start and quit. Some people quit, but even though you quit, you can't really quit. It's a job. It's a job for life, but it's the most rewarding job anybody can do. At least personally for me, it's the most rewarding job that I've been engaged in. Yes, there are ups and downs, there are lows and there are highs, and there are challenges. You get pushed, you get pulled. There are times when you hit your head against the wall and think, what have I let myself into? But then you realize that unfortunately, there's no way out. So all we can do is make the best of it. So I just want to say thank you very much to everybody. Um, um, okay. Akinyemi already has a copy of the book. Um, So, what do you think, Akin, in terms of the book? Any comments?
Is that
Not,
me?
not your, no, not your own Akin. And Akin says, "I've already got a copy of the book." And actually,
Okay, okay, okay.
the ones that we are giving out, we actually get it autographed by Akin. So when you get it, you are not just getting the book; you are getting an autographed book. Okay.
Eh,
Thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon, and then we'll meet you when we review the book in the book club. Have a blessed and pleasant day.
Thanks, everybody. See you later.